You're wired in. SmallCapVoice.com. Following is a presentation of SmallCapVoice.com, today's leader in investor relations, capital formation, and retail support. Now, with your online business briefing, SmallCapVoice.com's Stuart T. Smith.
Welcome one, welcome all to this online business briefing brought to you by SmallCapVoice.com. And as you just heard, I'm your host, Stuart Smith. Now, we are joined today for the very first time by SmartCard Marketing Systems Inc. They're traded on the OTC under the ticker symbol SMKG. And we're lucky enough to be joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the company, Mr. Massimo Barone. Massimo, how are you today?
Well, yourself, Stuart?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to call in and speak with us a little bit about the business model and market and the things that you're doing over there at SmartCard Marketing Systems Incorporated. If you would, tell us about the market you operate in.
Well, SmartCard basically operates in the payment space. We develop payment applications for the payment industry for credit card and debit card processing.
Very good. Now, that can be a massive market as well as a very differentiated market. Tell us a little bit about the target markets that you are working on and some of the different products that you have to service those markets. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, we cater to banks and telecom companies that have a large portfolio of merchants. Typically, we are focused on right now Asia and, of course, the U.S. Both markets are not the same. Basically, in the U.S., it's an ISO market where the banks deal with ISOs and who are their frontline sales force. And in Asia, it's a completely different market where the banks have a direct-to-merchant strategy. We're there to basically supply both solutions with our whole ecosystem for EMV and e-commerce and to enable their whole merchant portfolio.
Well, listeners, as you listen to today's audio interview, I would like you to follow along by visiting the company's website, SmartCardMarketingSystems.com. Now, there's a little bit of information in there about the industry itself. Obviously, this is a fast-growing industry. You've got to be quick on your feet, Massimo, as far as staying on top of technologies. How do you see this industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, right now, there's been a large void in the market technology-wise. A lot of companies are trying to create layers of technology to service the consumer through the merchant. But what's typically happened is the banks and the acquirers weren't ready for this, and technology has been chasing itself. So we're really there to help the core technology prepare in order to allow these technologies to work in our whole ecosystem. So the banks today, as you can imagine, are being hit with all these new pay schemes. Yet the infrastructure, as you know, in the U.S. for EMV hasn't even been deployed. So you've got multiple layers of certification going on, and no one has the skill set to adapt or bring the technology to the market. So we're really there to help the banks deploy a core solution that can help them take these products and bring it to their merchants.
And what has the acceptance level been so far? Is this a difficult market to penetrate with these banks? How has the company been progressing through its life cycle so far, Massimo?
Well, we offer the banks and telecoms a limited CapEx solution. So we give them the whole core engine for EMV, which gives them also a multi-channel product library. So we give them everything to equip themselves to manage everything from a small merchant to a large retail merchant with multiple locations. So this advantage basically turns into pennies a transaction as opposed to millions of infrastructure. So I think that's our key advantage, and we've taken the decision away from the bank, from the board level, and put it back to the executive committee, and I think that's our key advantage.
Well, listeners, EMV is a technical standard for smart payment cards and for the payment terminals and automated teller machines that can accept them. EMV cards are smart cards. So for those not familiar with the acronym, now you understand that these are chip cards or IC cards. Most of us, including myself, just recently received a new card from me. Mine was an American Express card that just came. They said, hey, it's not expired, but here's the new one with the chip on it. So widespread market acceptance for what you're doing right now. It's just finding the right markets to penetrate into. And to do that, you're going to need a strong management team. Massimo, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and then any other key members of the team there at SmartCard.
Sure, it'll be a pleasure. I myself have been in the payment space and alternative payment space for about 20 years. Also, in the last 4 years, I led another company which I was the first to deploy an MPOS solution on multi-OS for PIN debit globally. What we did was focus that strength and our expertise of our team, including Paul Contanelli, our president, and Mike Distillo, our finance manager, and we took that whole approach ground up. And the one realization we made was the banks weren't ready for mobile payments. And we had this struggle not to deploy or to get them to deploy, but where did they start? And we realized that this opportunity came about of working ground up with them to deploy a whole strategy. So this way here was turnkey. Now, that being said, our focus changed from a merchant model where we realized that the solution had to be geared toward enabling a bank and its portfolio.
Well, very good. Now let's look back on 2015. So far this year, what would you consider some of the major milestones for your company?
I think the biggest milestones is we had two commercial technologies that we deployed. One was for the Check 21 industry, or remote deposit capture. We were lucky enough to work with a significant bank, ICICI Bank of India, and deployed the service for them across Canada. The second was our platform, generosity.com. Now it's an ecosystem for issuing, creating, and managing in real time coupons, incentives, and ticketing. That was really a big milestone, especially in the last month where we introduced the beacons. So that whole new technology now allows us to do push notification and geo-sourcing for merchants and their consumers and bring them in a real environment.
Well, listeners, to catch up on these milestones, hit that press wire using the ticker symbol SMKG. The Generosity.com version 2.0 release for omni-channel retail and event management services came out Wednesday, February 4th. The company also announced an LOI to acquire CT Payments, the largest independent processor for debit and credit EMV transactions in Canada. That's the August 12th press release that you recently talked about as well, Massimo. Any other milestones that you see for the company? And if not, let's get the goals for the company going forward, Massimo.
I think our biggest goal is completing the CT acquisition by this last quarter. The technology and expertise that we get with the CT team and CT infrastructure, Canada being one of the grandfathers of EMV, if we look at the timeline, and taking that technology and we redesigned it as a cloud host. So this technology combined with the platform of SmartCard allows us really to bring our solution to market. And what's happened here for us is it's really made it simple for banks and telecom companies to decide to move forward when they see the expertise behind the product. And I think that's a key asset right now.
Well, let me ask you, since we're talking about goals and where you're at as a company, obviously this technology is widely accepted, if not completely accepted. Obviously there's major benefits, including fraud reduction, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, everybody's using it. So let's talk about your competition within this space. Who are you directly competing against, or are you not really competing against them, but rather servicing some of the competition that you work against or with?
Well, we believe that because we're an independent switch, what happens is we can bridge to partners that technically would have been considered competition. Mm-hmm. So we claim that we're the only independent switch. So what does that mean? We're not tied to an acquirer. We can actually take our technology and connect with acquirers and create a bridge for retailers who may have cross-border operations or who deal with multiple acquirers. So it gives us the advantage where they can stay in an agnostic environment, remain with the same equipment and point of sale, and not have to change or recertify their solutions with multiple acquirers. And I think that makes us unique.
Very good. And one last question for you. International expansion. You talked about two major markets, the U.S. as well as Asia, but you also, of course, have news relating to your work in Canada. Any thoughts about Mexico, the Philippines, and some of the European countries that are the most prominent ones of this technology, being Germany and Austria? Any work being done or any thoughts about expansion internationally?
Well, our biggest focus right now, I think, for the next 5 years is handling Asia. We do have an office now in Kowloon, which is on the other side of the Bay of Hong Kong. And Asia has been primarily an e-commerce or electronic payment type in the country. And what we're seeing there is that banks are racing to deliver EMV and trying to win over merchants by deploying an EMV solution. And the beautiful advantage that you have in Asia, I think, is that the size of the merchant portfolios of some of these banks are incredible. Just recently, we did a deal with a bank in Hong Kong, and of course they're in 11 other countries, and some of the sizes of the merchant opportunities are enormous. And, they have portfolios of 40, 50,000 merchants, and one merchant alone can be the largest courier company in the country. So the opportunities are huge, and the fact that we have the technology and expertise to help them bring that channel to market is, I think, where we're going to see our next 5 years really impacted.
Well, listeners, SmartCard Marketing Systems is now a client of SmallCapVoice.com. You can visit our website, SmallCapVoice.com, click on the clients page, and follow the link to SmartCard Marketing Systems. Just this week alone, the stock is up over 180% so far this week. A wonderful week for SmartCard in the market. Massimo, thank you for your time here at SmallCapVoice.com. Terrific insights into your company, the world market, and the future of this market as well. We appreciate talking to you. We look forward to talking to you again very soon as more great